There are a lot of things that I don't like about Valentine's Day. It's an over-commercialized production that devalues non-romantic love and pushes people to spend exorbitant amounts of money to express their affection. But it does have a pretty good aesthetic, and you can get cheap chocolate the day after, so, that's a plus. But, let's be real. The aesthetic of Valentine's Day is the pink, the red, the lace, the pink, the flowers, the pink, the ruffles, the pink. It's perfect, and I love it so much. So I want to make a Valentine's-inspired character design look thing. Now, when you think of a Valentine's Day character, the first person that comes to mind is Cupid. And he is an angel thing guy. He's actually a Greek god. He's like the son of Aphrodite, but like angel vibes, But how about we look to the other shoulder and do something devilly? Because, I don't know. I saw a picture on Pinterest and it looked cool. I want to do something kind of like devil, impish kind of vibe, but also clown, and also jester. Because love makes us into fools. Look, I have a vision, but I am extremely myopic and have an astigmatism, so it's not a very clear vision, but it's a vision nonetheless. So, this whole design is really just a mishmash of a bunch of different vibes and aesthetics and projects and techniques that I've been wanting to try for a while, kind of mashed together into one pink, ruffly, red, lacy velvet thing. And I have no explanation for it other than I like it, and that's why you're here. So, deal with it, I guess. The goal is to look like the shoebox that I decorated in 3rd grade for all of my classmates to put Valentine's cards in. That's what the goal is. That and clown. So that is the plan. So let's jump into this and get started. Alright, so for the hat, I need a pattern. And the way I usually make fitted patterns is the tape method, where you wrap yourself in like plastic wrap and packing tape and then trace out your pattern from that. So I have to wrap my head in plastic wrap. I don't usually use plastic wrap, I usually use plastic bags, which you shouldn't do. Don't put plastic bags on your head. That's not safe. But I'm gonna do it anyways. And I'm sorry for the terrible lighting in this shot, but this just doesn't feel like something I should be doing during the daylight hours. This is a late night thing. So I'm gonna take my hair down, but tie it down low. Do I look ready to start my apprenticeship with the tinsmith? Rock and roll. I'm gonna get tape prepared. I've learned since the tape ghost lady. I didn't know ears could sweat this much. I look like a volleyball. Now I need to go trace out the pattern. I need to wear my glasses in order to do that, to see what I'm doing. But I don't have ears. And I don't want them to fall off. I think I'm gonna have to tape them on. So I marked out the heart-shaped opening around my face and all the seam lines for the different panels, and once I had everything the way I wanted it, I was able to cut the tape off of my head, which was very nerve-wracking having a pair of scissors this close to my jugular vein, but I got it off without incident. I sewed the horn pieces together with the pattern piece in place to make sure I got the seam line correct since they're so small and the poly satin is so slippery, but once I had them stitched up, I clipped the corners and notched the curves so I could turn them out nice and pretty, and I was left with a beautiful little chili pepper. Then I stuffed my jalapeno poppers with some fiber fill to get a nice cute little horn. And then I stitched all the panels of the base of the hat, which is pretty self-explanatory, so I'm going to take this time to complain about poly satin. I am a poly satin hater first and a person second. I don't like working with it. It is so slippery, the texture is so weird, but I like the way satin looks, and it's cheap. But just God, it's so annoying to work with, and I used so much of it in this project. I used it in 2 places, that's not really a lot, but I just, oh my God, I hate working with it and I want to complain. But it looked really nice for this hat. I used it for the outer layer and for the lining, so it's very nice to put on my hair, and I like it a lot. But it was a pain to make. Another struggle I had while making this hat was pressing the seams since they're all so curved and I don't have a tailor's hand, so I had to kind of finagle them on the end of my ironing board to press them, but they came out pretty nice in the end, and I'm currently making a tailor's hand, so hopefully won't have this problem in the future. I put some iron-on interfacing onto the front portion to keep that little pointy bit pointy. It worked out pretty good. I looked like a knockoff Megamind. I sewed some long tubes of the satin for the ties, turned those right side out, and pressed them nice and flat. And I was able to attach them to the bottom corners of the hat and turn the whole thing right side out. After a quick press, I was able to mark where I wanted the horns to go, and then hand sewed those on. For the shirt, I wanted to use some cotton fabric that I already had on hand, but I wanted it to be a brighter shade of pink, so I put some samples in for different lengths of time and liked what I saw, so I went for something kind of in between these two. I was also dyeing the fabric for the shorts. That didn't turn out so well. I'll show you more about that later when we get to those, but it's pinker than it was when it went in, so that's all that really matters. I used the same shirt pattern that I did for the white blouse that I made in my moss corset video, but with modified sleeves to make them puffier. A lot puffier. You'll see how puffy. It's a lot. I started by sewing up the button placket, and then I pressed and sewed on the front pockets. And then I sewed up the shoulders using French seams for a nice finished edge. And then it was time for the sleeves, which were super big, and by big I mean, yeah, that one's folded in half, that's one piece for one sleeve. These were massive. I wanted them to be huge and puffy, and they are. By God, they are. I ran gathering stitches along the top and bottom edge for both sleeves, and then gathered everything down. And then I was able to sew the armband onto the bottom edge, which got a bit messed up, got folded over, and made this big old pucker on the cuff. So I had to unpick that section and then re-stitch it. Once I had it all nice and smooth, I was able to press it over and stitch in the ditch to secure the other edge. And then I stitched the sleeve onto the arm side, and I finished this edge with some bias binding. And then it was time to make the equally massive collar. I put some fusible interfacing onto one of the pattern pieces, and then did a quick try on and was able to adjust the size to make it fit perfectly. I had this really pretty scalloped lace that I wanted to put on the edge of the collar, so I very carefully pinned that down and then stitched it into place, which required a lot of up-close concentration, as evidenced by my face in the corner of this shot, like the sun in a child's landscape drawing. And then I was able to sew the collar onto the neckline of the shirt, and then I could finally sew up the sides, which I also finished with French seams for a nice clean finish. And then I did just a simple double fold hem, and I wanted to show you guys this cool trick that I used to make it easier to go over the bulky French seams. So what I did was just unfolded that edge and then clipped the seam along the fold lines, and then I took that little middle tab there and folded that in the opposite direction from the other two, and then just folded up the hem like usual, and that kind of spreads out the seam to make it a little less bulky. At this point, I tried on the shirt and realized that the shoulder seam where the sleeve was attached was a little bit too low, and so the puff wasn't sitting right, so I did a little ladder stitch to kind of bring that edge further up on the shoulder. Kind of hard to explain, but I basically shortened the shoulder seam a bit. And then I did some machine buttonholes and then sewed on these pretty pearly white buttons. And so I finished the shirt just in time for Valentine's Day, but I had been hoping to have the whole project done by this point, but I had been very distracted by this little guy. This is Mimsy, our new kitten. He was a stray who'd been coming around to our house, and we adopted him. He's about 3 months old. He's super sweet, but he is the reason why this project is only done now at the end of February, but it's a good reason to be a little bit late. So now it was time to work on the vest. So what I did to make this diamond pattern was cut strips of my fabric and then sew them together into blocks of stripes. So I had one block that was pink and bright red, and then one block that was pink and dark red. And then once I had all those stitched up and had pressed out all the seams, I cut them into diagonal strips, and then I took those strips of stripes and sewed them together, alternating between the bright red and the dark red blocks, and that made the diamond pattern. Let's see if this actually works out the way I want it to. Needle's not threaded. Lovely, lovely. Okay, take 2. Okay. Okay. You know what? That's not half bad. As someone who has very limited experience in quilting, like, I'll take it. Okay, so I'm done with the sewing up of the diamonds for the vest. I already cut out the panels for the fronts. Pretty good overall. They're not perfectly lined up everywhere. You can see, like, here. They're not perfectly lined up, but, like, just don't look there. I basically made, like, a big chunk of the diamond pattern and then cut out the front pieces, and I have a big chunk of the diamond pattern and my back panel that I need to cut out. It's been a process because it's kind of hard to figure out how long of a strip you need to start with, because you're going to be cutting it and seaming it, and you lose some of the length to seam allowance, and it's more math than I'm capable of, so I kind of just went for it. So yeah, gonna cut this piece out, and then I'm going to sew these quilted pieces onto like an interlining, just something lightweight to just kind of stabilize it so it's not just this and the really lightweight satin lining that I'm using a little bit more, you know? You know what? I might be able to use my mock-up pieces. Hang on, can I see the polka dots through? I mean, if I hold it up to the light, yes, you can see the polka dots, but I'm gonna be wearing it. It's not gonna be held up to the light. Yeah, I'm gonna use my mock-up pieces as the inner lining. Nice, I don't have to cut anything out. So, I'm going to cut out this piece, sew them to my mock-up pieces. I guess I'll stitch in the ditch. So then I cut my lining layer pieces from the dreaded poly satin, and I stitched them up at the shoulders and side seams. I did the same to my outer pieces, and then pressed all the seams on both flat. My plan was to bag line this vest, so once I had them pressed, I pinned the lining to the outer layer right sides facing. Then I took the extension table off my sewing machine to get the free arm, and then stitched the lining to the outer layer starting at the arm size. If you're yelling at the computer screen about why that's a bad idea, don't worry, there's a whole learning moment coming up in a bit. So if you're doing a vest like this, don't sew it up like this. Just don't do it at the shoulder seams, basically. But what I did was stitch them together at the arm opening and then all the way around the outer edge except for a little section at the back so I could turn it right side out. I clipped all my corners so I could turn it out nicely and tried very valiantly to turn it right side out, but I basically made it impossible. What I should have done was not sewn up the shoulder seams and just done the side seams and then sewn all the way around, leaving a section open to turn it right side out. That's not what I did, so I ended up having to turn it back inside out and unpick several of the seams, and then finally I was able to turn it right side out and then close up the openings and press everything. And then I stitched in some buttonholes and sewed on some little heart-shaped buttons. And I had to add in a little extra panel of fabric for the buttons because this vest was quite tight and I needed a little bit more space to be able to button it up. The next thing I'm going to work on is the shorts. So I'm going to start working from this pattern for shorts I have. I made it a while ago using a pair of shorts I already owned. I've used it to make other shorts, fits really well. So I'm just gonna use this and do the old slash and spread method to add more volume around the hem leg opening. I don't know. I want to leave the waist relatively fitted and just have the volume in the leg part. I think that's the plan. And have them be relatively high-waisted, because the waistcoat is a little bit cropped. So like I said, I did the slash and spread method to modify the shorts pattern. So the first thing I did was make a copy of my pattern so I wasn't destroying the original. So I just traced that and cut it out. And then once I had the new copy ready, I measured the width of the leg opening. I wanted to double this measurement to get the amount of poofage, the amount of volume that I wanted. So I knew I was shooting for a 22-inch leg opening. So now I'm ready to do the slashing. I make these long, narrow cuts all along the length of my shorts pattern piece, and then I tape my pattern piece down to keep it from shifting. I lay my tape measure out just to have a frame of reference for how wide I'll need to spread the slashings, and then I do just that. That's why it's called the slash and spread method. But yeah, you just spread out your little strips of paper from the pattern to get them to the width that you want. You get these kind of weird wrinkle curved foldy bits at the top. I just kind of squished them down flat. It's not very precise, but it gets the job done. And then once I have that, I cut little triangles of paper to fill in the gaps, so I get one solid piece. You can do this on top of a bigger sheet of paper and then just trace around your slashed and spread piece instead of having to cut and tape in all these little wedges, but I didn't have paper big enough, so this is what I did. And I ended up with the jankiest looking pattern piece ever, but it got the job done and it worked perfectly fine. And then I was able to move on to pinning and cutting.
You look like Angel.
There's a couple different ways to assemble shorts, but the way I like to do it is to take a front and a back sewn together at the side seam and at the inseam. Do that for the other set, so you have two loose legs, and then you take one, flip it right side out, put it into the other leg, which is still inside out, and then you sew along the whole crotch seam. It can't be called that. I think it is, actually. I don't like it though. So you're just doing one big U that goes from like your navel down and under to your lower back. You get it. You know how pants work. I assume. Okay, so I just finished assembling the base pattern of the shorts, and they're really freaking cute as is. They're huge, so I have to like hold them up. I should put this on a tripod so I'm not having to hold this and my pants up. Give me a second. Okay. They're so cute. It's like secret pants, but short. It's got very skater skirt vibes. They're also kind of big at the waist, so I need to kind of big, a good bit. But yeah, I'll just gather that in. It's a good start, and it will make some very cute, stupid puffy pants. So to gather down the waist of these shorts, I made a little internal waistband and pleated the shorts down, keeping that at the hips because that's where I wanted most of the volume. So then I ran gathering stitches all along the bottom leg openings and then gathered that down. So I had the puff and now I needed the panes. So I cut some lengths of this red velvet ribbon that I've had on hand for a while, and then pin that in place over top of the base layer of my shorts. Okay, so I got the ribbons pinned on. It took a while of kind of like fiddling with them and readjusting and such, but I think they're in a good spot now. So the next step is to stitch down the ribbons so that they're in place and not pinned on, and then put on the cuffs for the leg holes and the waistband, which I already have cut out, and then work out a closure. I don't want to have to put a zipper in these, but I'm feeling like I might have to put a zipper in these. They don't look as pink on camera as they do in real life, but I assure you this fabric is a nice like pastel pink. It's not as pink as the shirt or the vest, waistcoat, whatever I'm calling it, but it's a nice subtle pink. That's it. That's what these shorts are. Subtle.
I somehow didn't break my needle, but yeah, don't sew over pins, folks.
Okay, so I didn't film any of the process of getting the waistband on because that was a nightmare and I don't want to talk about it, but it's on now. Still need to do the closures. I was hoping to just get away with one big hook and eye over here, but the way this isn't lining up perfectly, I think I'm gonna have to do a couple small ones along the edge to get that to line up. Otherwise, shape, silhouette is looking pretty good. Ample amounts of poof. Cuffs are a little bit tight, but that means they're gonna stay put. Right. The main issue I'm having with these is the colors. Excuse me. I just ate a bunch of mashed potatoes. The colors in the shorts I'm not living for, because the pink is very light and pastel, and the dark red is very dark, and they're both just pretty desaturated, so it kind of looks black and white, like especially in comparison with this. So what I'm going to try is make a little bit of trim from the pink and maybe the bright red here, that are usually the best, and add that as like a little decorative trim going along the panes, just to see if that does anything. Let's do some closures. Throw it. I lied. For dramatic effect. So I managed to get sick in like the day since I last showed you these. So I'm not putting much effort into this angle, so this is what you're getting. But I did the closures on the waistband, so that's all done. And for the trim, I cut out some little ruffly bits of the pink, and then I tried a little bit of the bright red. And I think I like it. I don't know how I feel. Does it kind of look like bacon? Kind of looks like bacon. I'm gonna try them on with the other parts of this outfit and see how I feel. You're not gonna see. It's a surprise, but just know it's happening. Okay, I said I wasn't gonna show you, but I feel like I need people to see what I mean. It's so busy with the trim on the ribbon, but there's so much bright pink up top and then nothing down here. And I don't know. I was gonna say I feel silly and I look like a clown, but that's literally what the inspiration for the whole project was, is clowns. So like, I think that means I'm doing a good job. I just wish that this fabric was a brighter pink, but I'm not. That ship has sailed. Maybe it's fine without anything. I think it'll be fine without the trim. I'm nixing the trim. I'm done with the trim. I don't want to do the trim. It makes everything dusty, and I hate cutting things with pinking shears. They're so hard to open and close. They're so hard to open and close. I don't want to make gloves out of this, but I'm going to. Okay. Onward. Okay, so it's Friday the 23rd. I want to get this video done before the end of February, which is Thursday the 29th. Is my light flickering or am I going crazy? Maybe both. So I have 6 days to finish making this whole project, film the reveal, and edit the video. I started editing, not very much, but I've started. Only opportunity I'm gonna have to film this reveal is this weekend, probably Saturday. So I need to finish the costume tonight. What I have left is the little ruffles on the socks, the shoes, and the gloves. None of those are going to take very long. It should be relatively easy. So I'm just gonna bust through those tonight, take y'all along with me. Probably won't explain what I'm doing very much, so sorry.
The little ruffles for the socks were super simple. I just took this lacy panel that I had in my stash, cut it in half lengthwise to make 2 long rectangles, pressed a little channel, and then stitched that down, and then fed through a piece of elastic, and then stitched the short edge down to make a little garter thing. And then I made the pom-poms for the shoes. I just used this white yarn that I had on hand, quite literally on hand, to make those. I don't really know how to explain how I covered these shoes in fabric. It was basically just kind of like draping it and then a lot of finagling and hand sewing and hot gluing the fabric. I was trying to avoid getting glue on the actual shoes themselves because these are actual shoes that I would like to wear in the future. So I had to kind of mess with the fabric a lot and manipulate it to get it to cover the shoe and stay on without attaching it to the shoe itself. It worked out in the end though. They're a little janky, but they fulfilled their purpose, and that's all I can really ask for. So the biggest failure of this project was the gloves. I had planned on making, elbow length, full finger gloves out of this organza. That did not work whatsoever. This isn't a stretch material. I didn't do gussets or anything. I just sewed along the outline of my hand, and shockingly, that didn't work. These did not fit at all. I could not get my hand in there. I just really could not get my fingers in. So I just gave up on that. Made these fingerless gloves. I basically just sewed tubes of the organza and then made a little ruffle to go along the bottom edge using the Angela Clayton method of just shoving all the fabric under the presser foot and sewing it in place, which worked wonderfully. And then I sewed that onto the top edge of the gloves, and with that kind of disappointing end to this project, it's time for the reveal.
Okay, wrap up time. Overall, I'm really happy with everything. I think it's super cute. It's a very silly outfit. That's the point. I think my favorite part is the hat, because it's just so, I don't know, I love it. It's just so cute. The gloves are kind of the biggest disappointment, but y'all saw how that went. It did not go well. They're very itchy. They don't stay on very well. They're not what I had in mind, but they're on. They're there. The shirt I really like. I probably am going to reduce the size of the collar a little bit so it's not quite so big and silly, because I think it works with this, with the vest and everything. But on its own, it's a little bit too much. So I want to be able to wear it on its own in everyday life, so I need to take that in a bit. Yeah, the shorts, very floofy, very silly. I've been wanting to do like a diamond quilted pattern on something for a while, and I'm really happy with how it came out. I'm also like really proud of my makeup. Like, I don't do makeup very much, and like, I think it's cute. I like it. I liked my hair as well. I don't know what it looks like now, but yeah, no. Overall, very happy with this. So happy belated Valentine's Day. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, you can subscribe if you'd like. You could like the video if you'd like. But yeah, hope to see you in the next video. Whenever that may be. Bye.